Hi, this is Doug Zanes. Thank you for tuning into my weekly legal tips show. I appreciate you taking the time to listen today. This week, my topic still revolves around the book that I've written. I think this is the third episode where I'm kind of covering the most important parts of the book. The name of my book is Winning Your Personal Injury Case, the Ultimate 8-Step Guide to Protect Your Health, Family, and Finances. My book can be found on Amazon.com in both Kindle or e-reader version, a digital version basically, and also a paperback. It's very affordable. The e-reader version is $2.99. The paperback, I think, is a little bit more expensive than that. And the purpose of the book is to actually provide good, helpful information to anybody about personal injury claims and accidents and what you need to watch out for, what you need to do to protect yourself. It's certainly a great book to read prior to ever being in an accident because it has information about insurance coverages and things that are actually very important to put in place prior to ever being in an accident in order to protect yourself. But it also has a lot of good information about what to do once an accident has happened and you've been hurt in an accident. And so it's certainly the paperback, quite honestly, is a great book to keep in your glove box. And you can kind of pull it out if you ever unfortunately find yourself in a situation where you've been in an accident, and take a look at what you ought to do immediately after the accident to make sure that you're protected, and from that point forward. Today I want to talk to you about what you should do if you've been hurt in an accident, and what medical attention you need to seek, what the problems we see people run into are as part of these cases in their medical care, and how those problems or those mistakes affect their case value. I mean, generally after an accident, whether it's a car accident or a slip and fall or some sort of premises liability case, or an accident on someone's property, where we're making a claim against the property owner or the business owner. Really, what we're going to talk about today applies just the same to both types of accident, to really any kind of accident. And generally, you have two types of accidents, or we see two types of accidents. We see accidents where clients are significantly injured, and the injury piece of the case is relatively straightforward. Those are things like a client has a severely broken leg where they get rushed to the hospital and they go into surgery, or the client has injuries that are so significant they get hospitalized, and their injuries are documented immediately in those hospital records. And they're significant. They're head injuries, they're broken bones, they're people who are bleeding either internally or externally and need immediate medical care. That's one type of injury case. And quite honestly, the injury piece of that case tends to be relatively straightforward and easy. And that probably accounts for, I'd say, about 40% of the cases that we work on, which is a lot of cases. I mean, we represent thousands of people a year in my law firm. And so, 40% is a lot. But the greater percentage are what we call soft tissue injuries. No broken bones, no hospitalization needed. It's strains and sprains, of your back or of your neck. There's shoulder injuries that aren't initially identified because your shoulder's sore, but an emergency room doesn't see a need to do an MRI of your shoulder immediately after the accident, and we don't diagnose your torn rotator cuff or your torn bicep tendon for 2 months or 3 months or even further out, just because the testing isn't done immediately. Because everybody thinks, hey, look, you're sore, you'll be better with time and with some basic medical care. Those cases are about 60% of the cases that we work on. And in those cases, the medical care you receive is very, very important. It really is an integral part of your injury case. The medical care you receive will directly correlate to your ultimate case value, because the way in those cases we prove that you were injured and the extent of your injuries is all based off of those medical records that document those injuries. So if you get into an accident and then you wait 2 or 3 weeks before you ever seek any medical care, you think, I'm sore, I hurt, but I'll just take some Advil, I'll put some ice on my neck, I'll rest, I'll use some, let's say, Bengay, but I will do those things rather than go to the doctor. You really are negatively impacting your personal injury case, because the insurance company is going to use that, what's called a treatment gap of 2 or 3 weeks, or so we see more in a lot of cases, that treatment gap, to argue that you weren't really hurt. And certainly you weren't that hurt, because you didn't need to go see a doctor. You didn't need to go to the emergency room. You didn't need to go to the urgent care. You didn't need to see your primary care physician or a chiropractor or anybody else. And that argument works very well for the insurance companies. So if you wake up the day after the accident, or you get home and a few hours later you start to feel really bad, everything hurts, you're sore, you have a headache, you now know you've been injured, you really need to seek medical care right away. You don't want to wait, either that day, the next day. You need to get in to see somebody to get evaluated, to one, make sure your injuries are, at this point, just strains and sprains as opposed to something more significant. But that also documents the injuries in your medical records. A doctor can write you a prescription for pain medication if you need one. A doctor can write you a prescription or refer you to physical therapy or to chiropractic care if he thinks either of those will help. But it documents everything. And even if your doctor says you ought to go home and just rest for 2 weeks, well, now we have documentation as to why you went home and rested for 2 weeks. You saw your primary care physician immediately after the accident. He said, look, I think you'll be better in a few weeks. Just go home and rest. That's what you did. And if a couple weeks later you still don't feel better, then you go back to your doctor. If you follow his advice and a couple days later you're just in so much pain, just resting for 2 weeks isn't an acceptable, isn't acceptable to you. You go back to your doctor and talk to him about how you're feeling, and that continues to document your injuries. But you can't wait. You really do need to get in to see a doctor right away. Now, what comes up a lot with our clients is, well, what do I do if I don't have health insurance? That's still a problem. Even today, in this day and age, with the Affordable Health Care Act, lots of people don't have health insurance. And that's an issue, because you still need to get medical care. So what do? You certainly can go to the emergency room because they can't turn you away. The downside to that, though, is that's a big bill that you owe regardless of what happens with any injury or accident case that you bring. So if your case doesn't work out, you still owe that bill. If you contact a good attorney that handles these injury cases all day, every day, that attorney should be able to refer you to doctors who will see you and wait to get paid out of the case. And if they really have a good network, they could probably send you to doctors who, if the case didn't work out, would be willing to write that medical care off and not hold you responsible for it if your case didn't work out. But that's one of the services a good attorney should be able to provide to you, is they should be able to help you get the medical care that you need immediately. And that's important, because that's what's going to help you get better. Certainly we need it on the legal end of a case to have a good case, because it's that documentation that actually is very important in the personal injury case. But really the purpose is to get you treatment, to help you feel better, to help you start getting better. So if you don't have health insurance, don't feel like you just can't do anything about it. Find a good personal injury attorney. Call them, set up an appointment. Every good personal injury attorney I know of will do a free consultation with you. and they'll explain to you what they can do for you, what they charge, all of those things. And they should be able to connect you with medical providers who will treat you even though you don't have health insurance. And they should be able to do it in a way where they're able to make sure that those bills get paid out of the case, and hopefully in a way where if your case doesn't work out, you're not stuck owing them. So that's very important. Again, I think people are sometimes hesitant to go see attorneys because they don't know how they're going to pay the attorney. And I can tell you in personal injury cases, as far as I know, every attorney I know that handles personal injury cases and is good will give you a free initial consultation. And you don't have to pay them to hire them. Meaning you don't have to write them a check. The way we get paid and the way every good personal injury attorney I know of gets paid is they get paid a percentage of the ultimate money that they're able to help you collect to get compensated for your accident. And if for some reason the case doesn't work out and they're not getting you compensated, the attorney doesn't get paid. And so, money isn't an obstacle to retaining a good personal injury attorney. It really isn't. And so that's a very important piece. If you don't have health insurance and you're not sure what to do, find a good attorney who can help you get the treatment that you need. We do it all day, every day with our clients because we have lots of clients, unfortunately, who don't have health insurance. We also have clients who have health insurance and run into this issue, which is they go to see a doctor, let's say their primary care physician, and they're actually told by the doctor or the doctor's staff that the doctor will not treat car accident patients and therefore can't help them. And they basically show them the door and send them on their way. So that does actually happen to people, unfortunately, who do have health insurance. And again, if that happens, a good attorney should be able to find you providers who will treat you, even though it's a car accident case. And the reason that happens is because there are a lot of doctors who I think have a misconception about these cases, about the process. They don't want to be part of it. They've had bad experiences with lawyers, and that's just sometimes reality. And we can't change reality, but what we can do is we can work around it, and a good attorney can help you find the medical care that you need. And you've got to look at your medical care from this perspective, which is the purpose of your care, just flat out, is to help you get better. That's it. That's the purpose of your medical care. It's not to somehow create some amazingly lucrative personal injury case. The purpose of your medical care is to help you get better and get back to how you were before this accident happened. Your case is kind of a side piece to that. And once you've gotten better, once you've recovered, that medical care and the documentation, the medical records, the medical bills are what we as attorneys are able to use to then go figure out put a value on your case, to figure out what the at-fault person's insurance company or the at-fault person should have to pay you to fully compensate you. And so that certainly the medical records and bills give us, a lot of that piece. But the real purpose of it is to get you better. We don't want you would much rather have a small personal injury case where you've recovered 100%, but you're back to normal. You can do all the things you've always done. We get your medical bills paid, and we get you compensated fairly. And you move on. That's the case you want, even though that case isn't going to make you rich. Because what nobody tells you is the big case where you're horrifically injured and somebody has to pay you millions of dollars also isn't going to make you rich. Because out of those millions of dollars, a lot of that money has to be used to pay past medical expenses or reimburse insurance companies for what they've paid. And a lot of that money has to be used to pay for future medical care or has to be able to pay for the things that you will need in the future to just function and be normal. there really are very few injury cases that I've ever heard of existing that have truly made somebody rich. Meaning, generally, people don't recover 100% and then become rich on top of it. The two tend to not go hand in hand. And so, if having to choose between one or the other, I would pick every day of the week complete recovery and fair compensation, and move on with my life. That's what these cases are about. That's what they should be about. And that's the approach that I think good injury attorneys will always have for their clients. And if you're handling your case on your own, I think that needs to be your approach, because that way you will actually be able to find a resolution that you're happy with. So thank you for tuning into my show today. It's great. I love doing these shows. I love the fact that hopefully the idea that the information is helpful to people. Again, my book covers this topic, what we've covered today is a chapter in my book. So you can certainly read the book and to refresh yourself, but the shows are great. And so everybody have a great week, and I look forward to you tuning in next week.